recipe for great food is simple. Make it fresh. Wings to go in Greenville, where every order is a custom order made with fresh ingredients. Wings to go, 7818 Wesley Street in Greenville. Simply great wings.
Wally? I don't see him. Brent, would you like to give us an invocation, please?
Father God, we thank you for this day and for your many blessings. We thank you for our health, for the provisions that you've provided for this community and its leaders and its many servants. And this, even though this has been a trying time and kind of difficult the past few months, it's exciting to see how we've come through it, and we look forward to getting things back to normal very quickly. Pray that as we make decisions here about our community tonight, that you would give us wisdom and discernment, and that through whatever decisions we make here, that you would be honored and glorified in our city. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Okay, we have no presentations for tonight. Next item is citizens to be heard. Citizens to be heard are invited to address the council on topics not already scheduled for public hearing or listed on the agenda. Present your completed citizens comment card to the city secretary. Speakers will be limited to 3 minutes and should conduct themselves in a civil manner. The city council cannot act on items not listed on the agenda in accordance with the Texas Open Meeting Act. Concerns will be addressed by the city staff. They may be placed on future agenda or addressed by some other course of response. When you come up to the microphone, please state your name and address. Carol?
Betty Franklin.
Betty?
Good evening. I wasn't ready, but I guess I am.
And
To the mayor,
move the mic so that you talk into it.
to the mayor and the councilmen, I first want to thank you for this opportunity.
Name,
to-
name and address.
Oh, Betty Franklin, 1811 King Street. Do they take the mask off when they speak? Can you? Okay. Speaking here. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. What I want to say first is I want to thank the councilman for allowing the builders to come into North Greenville and just develop the new homes. And when you ride through North Greenville, it really look nice. And I want to take this opportunity to thank you. I have lived in Greenville for over 35 years, and I didn't expect to see the decent homes in my lifetime. So thank you. Also, I guess I complained about the taxes going up, but I guess that comes with having decent houses in your neighborhood and not apartments and complexes. So I guess I'm gonna have to live with that. But with the new homes, I would love to see a sustainable park. We started on Wesley Street when we tore down the old Austin School building, and we stopped. Nothing else has happened. It's just a vacant lot. And we need to move forward and come up with some projects. I would love to see a sustainable park there, but people in the neighborhood then from the neighborhood could go to the park, recreational time. Right now, we have decent houses. A decent park on Wesley Street will look really nice. I also talked with some of the neighbors, and we have met with some of the community leaders and business people. They're willing to work with the city to form groups, whereas we can adopt different sections, and we can work to have a sustainable park and our neighborhood. You may say this is not possible, but they're doing it at Graham Park. You have church people at Graham Park where they're keeping up help with maintenance of Graham Park, and you have a lot of activities going on. So we would like to see a park, because if we don't do anything, we drop the ball. But if we don't do anything, it's going to be a haven there for the homeless population and other things to carry on. And I want to thank you for even considering tearing down the building. I know that was such an effort, but we can't stop now. We have made a lot of progress on that. So we would like to see something happen. We have decent houses. I won't talk about the streets. I'll let somebody else do that. You want me to talk? Oh.
Thank you.
So what about the second?
Teresa Young, 1708 King Street, Greenville, Texas. Once before, I came before the city council, not you guys, to challenge them to walk my neighborhood on the sidewalks because we were being ticketed for not walking on the sidewalk. I'm coming here to challenge you guys to drive down our streets. You can start with Wesley Street, where old Austin School used to be, and come down Polk Street. Turn, come down in front of my house, go all the way down to Silver, go back to White, Silver Street to Wesley, go down to Dalton, come up Wright Street, and don't forget to go down Seal Street. Those streets are so raggedy. The holes are pathetic. If anybody was running from somebody, they'd have to stop. So I'm just challenging the city council to come over and ride through my neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that's all that's turned in a card, so we will close the citizens to be heard. We'll go to item 6A, which will be a public hearing, the first public hearing on a proposed budget. Summer, you got anything to say?
Nope. No, this is the first opportunity for the public to make any comments that they would like on the proposed budget that was presented at last meeting.
Okay. Anybody wish to speak on the budget? Okay.
Wow.
We will close that off. We'll move to item 6B, consideration and action on an ordinance authorizing approval of a conditional use permit. Latora? Latora is a lot better looking.
Last time, I was there. And so
You just
Latora
don't
and I
look
got
at all
this-
like Latora.
We got this thing going, so we try to keep y'all wondering. You wondered, didn't you? I won.
You won. We lost. Go ahead.
Okay, this is a request for a conditional use permit for a car lot out on Forester Street. Most of y'all probably know that was the only beer barn we ever had in Greenville, Texas, back when we went wet with beer and wine a few years back. And of course, it didn't. Eventually, it failed and didn't work. Lloyd Webb owns that property. He also owns some property across the street where he had a car lot. He has since sold that property and is requesting a conditional use permit. Let me back up a little bit. That's Forester. This is the property this is the actual site plan of what it looked like on the original zoning change. The property is zoned general retail, which requires the conditional use permit. This is as it looks sort of today. This is an old picture. This is not current, but.
So he's got to have a conditional use to be able to sell cars, is that?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
That's correct. This is just merely showing you the zonings around it, what it is. his property is actually zoned general retail. You have residential next to it, but a lot of the property out there is zoned general retail. It has houses and different things on it. We sent notices out, 7 notices out to property owners within 200 foot. We didn't get any responses back for or against. And when it went to a vote at the Planning and Zoning Commission, it was a 5-3 vote in favor of it. Now, this is a conditional use permit. That being said, council can add any kind of caveats you may want to that. You can set hours, how many vehicles he could have there. I know Latour had talked to him last week after P&Z. The cars weren't in a very good order. He's got it in order now. He's got parking set up where you can actually park vehicles. If y'all grant this conditional use permit, he will have to come into my office and apply for a certificate of occupancy to operate. And at that time, we will inspect the building, make sure. I already know it's handicapped, but we'll make sure everything's like it should be. The parking's in place, and we'll probably require some landscaping along the front.
Do we know how many cars he can park there and still have room for customers?
He'll need to keep 5 spots open for customers. That's the minimum. Any other vehicle he has there, he'll have to keep access for fire department in case we have a fire there where they can, an open lane where we can get in and out of there. And he'll have to park on the concrete. He won't be able to put any vehicles on the grass or anything like that. And I think his intent is when he sold the place across the street, which had many, many vehicles, these were vehicles he had left, and I think the thinking is that he just wants to sell these vehicles, and I don't know what he's going to do after that. I know Mr. Webb's here and can speak at that, but I think that's his intent. I don't think he's planning on, I may be wrong, I don't think he's planning on purchasing more vehicles to sell. I think he just needs to get rid of the stock he's got, and he really doesn't have anywhere to put them, so this made logical sense.
How large is the parking space that's currently there?
It's not, let me pull that. That's not a true picture. This is what it looks like today.
It's just
not
hard.
a whole lot, but you can kind of see how they park the cars around the edges.
Yeah, it's a mess.
That is, yes. See, there's actually vehicles. It does not. That's not today though. This is, I don't know how far back that is. Today, I actually drove out there today. I think the mayor did too. The vehicles are parked on the concrete. You've got parking in front there. This is not a current picture. This was just one that we got off of satellite. But we will keep up with that. I'll have code keep up with it and make sure that on their regular deals that we're parking where we're supposed to be parking and keep it open. There's not been a lot of other use for this property. Nobody's really asked for any other use for it. And it's just, the building's just kind of sitting there decaying. So from my standpoint, I'd like to see something in it, at least for maintaining the building.
Any question? Thank you. Okay, Mr. Webb, would you like to come up and tell us about your desires before I open it up to public?
As far as the vehicles that you asked about, there'll be no more than 20. That includes.
We need your name and address, please.
Oh, sorry. Lloyd Webb, 1611 County Road, 4104. 20 cars will be the max. Probably less than that. I'm just saying there won't be no more than 20. There's parking for about 30, but I'm not going to go that way. I'm just going to get back to a mom and pop type deal, maybe 15, 20 cars, maybe less. I mean, I built the building and I put a beer barn in, and I spent a lot of money on that building. I mean, that building's some nicer than some of the homes out there. It's nothing to be ashamed of. It's brick. I just put a fence in the front. Any other questions you'd like me to answer? I mean, I'm paying $4,500 a year taxes.
You do realize that you do have to have conditional approval to be
Yes.
selling cars?
Yes, sir.
Because when I drove out there today, it looked like there was about a half a dozen cars that you had for sale signs on them, and that you don't have authority to do that.
Well,
as
my
far as I
license
know.
is still across the street till I get my CO. I'm still licensed by the state at 515 Forester, sir. And I can have a second location. I'm fixing to drop that one if.
But you don't have conditional use permit to use that as a car lot yet.
No, sir.
You think you can get 30 cars on there, or you said 20 is all you're planning? Is that
20's maximum.
20 plus customers, or is that 20 include customers?
It's 20 plus the customers. Probably gonna be about 18. I mean, I've got to look at the way that's laid out.
Okay.
There is plenty of room.
Anybody have any questions for him? Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Y'all have a good day.
At this time, I will open it up for a public hearing. Is there anyone who wishes to speak in favor of this issue?
Well, Paul Park has filled out a card to speak.
I'm Paul Park, 207 Patterson Drive in Greenville. There's two things. I really don't have a dog in this fight. I don't particularly care. But one of the things that I wanted to point out was the citizen survey that's on the city website. 3 things the citizens don't want: fast food restaurants, rental properties, used car lots. That's the first. The other one is, if none of the adjacent property owners care enough to respond, what do I care what they do? Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Anybody else wish to speak? Anybody against this? All right, at this time, I will close the public hearing on that. I'll entertain a motion.
So, a question real quick. The car lot that he currently has, I guess, you said that's across the street. Does it have a permit?
No, that's grandfather, that's been there for
Is that one?
far back as I can remember, but it's, somebody has bought that property.
Okay, so that is no longer going to be used as a
It
car
could
lot?
be, because the grandfather doesn't go away for 6 months, so if somebody comes in, yeah, they could technically do it.
Okay,
So the fact that it was bought by somebody else, that doesn't get rid of the permit? Okay.
Now, on this conditional use permit that you're fixing to do, you could put that, that's one of the caveats you could put to it, is that once Mr. Webb sells it, it can't be a car lot again, they'd have to come back and do that.
do you know what the new owner is going to use it for?
I do not.
I mean, one of the things that concerns me is I know we're required to send something to the 200 feet around, but that's a neighborhood out there with a lot of folks, and a lot more than 7 people
Right.
are going to have to deal with it. And I wouldn't want to use car lot in my neighborhood 250 feet away, or 300 feet away from me. So I think, I mean, that's a concern.
That's one of the reasons though why you publish it in the paper, and also, I know, but also there's a 4x4 sign that has to be placed up
Yeah.
there 15 days prior to this meeting that tells you what the intent is out at the highway, and that was done, so. It's not like there's just 7 people.
I'm also concerned about the number of cars that he's talking about. Just looking at the aerial photo that we have, it does not look like you can
Right.
fit 25 or 30 cars plus a fire truck in there to me.
Right.
I mean, have you site mapped that out and looked
No,
at
I'd
it?
have to look at it, and that's one thing that we will do on the CO, when it comes in for the CO, we'll look at
But I'd like to be able to say, to put a limit or a cap on it
it. You can do that.
for appearance purposes, and it's hard to do that when I don't know how many cars can safely fit in
Right.
there. Can we flash that picture back up there again?
I can identify when I drove out there today that there was solid cars on each side of the building,
You're
parked
right.
very close to each other.
Yeah, they're very close to each other.
It does not look like that
No.
right there.
It looks like, I mean, you might be able to fit 20 cars on that lot comfortably, total.
I think you could.
But not 20 plus 5.
I think you could put 20 around the perimeter. I think you could put 10 around the perimeter each side, and you've got 5 parking spots in the front.
5 in the front.
5
That's
right
not-
in front of the building.
That's not what you're seeing there is a tractor trailer or something. That's
The
not-
ones on the left there, that's about 8 cars, that there, and those are pretty, I mean, those are packed in there pretty good, so if you do the same thing on the other side.
There's actually 9 cars there now, and one of them you can see is, you could put 10.
Okay, so
You got
let's
the
say,
same thing on the other side.
so let's say you put 10 and 10, that's 20.
Right.
Which is,
Where are you putting the other 10? You know, he said no more than 30.
He said no more than 20.
said he's only
He
gonna
said no
put
more
20
than
out.
20, but he thought he could park 30.
Oh, okay.
And then you've got, in front of the building, you've got parking spots there. There's at least 5 parking spots there, so I think he's got that.
Okay.
And at the same time, you have a conditional use permit that you're going to make sure everything is written up correctly before he even open for business. So
Yeah, that's why-
being that that's the issue, I don't see a problem with it.
Yeah, the CO's gonna,
Especially if you can make it to where the other parking lot, he can't sell vehicles, so, and that's what you're worried about, that you don't have 2 car lots across the street from each other. I don't see the issue with it. He's put money into it already.
Well, you are going to have 2 car lots, or you could have 2 car lots
Could have.
across from each other, because we don't know what the other guy's going to use this for. But I don't want to make Mr. Webb's,
we could ask him, he may know what they're gonna plan with it.
I don't want to make
Steve,
his
how
use
long does that remain grandfathered?
until somebody
six
quits
months.
using it.
6 months?
6
And when
months
did
from
he
the
sell
time
it?
It's out of business.
When did he sell it?
I don't know. I'd have to go back and look at that.
Ask.
January, so he's about out of it now.
It's gone.
So it's gone.
We're in the 8th month, so if he sold it in January,
So if somebody wanna put a car lot, they'd have to come right back and do the same thing with you guys.
Cars out there, cars that are out there, they're not open for business.
Right.
For business side, that's the grandfather, it's not away. Nobody has been for it, of used cars or something, like grandfathering can still.
Yeah, you don't have a mic on. Well, I would make a motion to approve, but with a maximum of 20 cars for sale, and a CO that expires if it changes ownership.
I think that's good.
And you said you'll have landscaping requirements based,
Yeah,
they're already in our
he'll have to-
ordinance?
He'll have to do landscaping along the front. We'll just have to look at the building. I haven't looked that closely at the building.
Okay.
At one time, I think it was the beer barn, I think there was planters in the front, but I haven't been on the property.
Okay.
Driven by it, but I haven't been on it. I'll just have to look at it.
Make sure that it meets all of our landscaping requirements.
Right.
okay, I've got a motion from Brent.
Second.
All right. I think Cedric did you second?
Yes.
Is the motion to approve, Mayor? I couldn't hear all the interaction.
Yes, the motion was to approve, and it would be a max of 20 cars, and that the certificate would expire if he sells it, so that it's not grandfathered. Anybody that buys it from him would have to come in and get a new permit.
Okay, thank you.
All right, I've got a motion and a second. Please vote. Carol, normally we're all blue when
Yeah, I
we
don't
start
think
voting.
Can you
Doesn't
just
look
do
right.
an A and A for me? Raise hands? and-
I'm sorry, I voted in favor of this motion. I
Yeah,
believe.
something's messed up.
Well, we got all kinds of neat colors up there now.
All right, passes 7-0.
Well, so it did this.
Okay,
one.
moving on to item 6C, consideration and action on an ordinance authorizing approval of a zoning change from agricultural zoning to single-family 3.
All right, this is actually a zoning change to go to single-family 3, as you said. This property is just adjacent to the National Guard Armory out on Aerobic. And it's a subdivision, I believe 112 lots. I can't read it and I'm not looking at anything, but, and their request is to go to single-family 3, which y'all all know is the smaller lots. They do meet the SF3 standard. We met with these fellas a few months back, been working on this one for a while. And, well, let me just go ahead.
So they've got 115 listed.
Okay, in doing this, the National Guard Armory would be sitting roughly where I'm scrolling right here. They'll have to build this road out from Jack Finney all the way down just to the other side of that. So we're going to get some road out of that. Of course, build all these streets and infrastructure for this property. A little better look. There's the National Guard Armory right there, and this is the property we're talking about. Fairgrounds would be to the bottom.
Is Aerobic, I mean, the fairgrounds is county, correct?
Correct.
And Aerobic is, the city limits goes along there, so Aerobic
Correct.
is
No.
in the city.
Right.
The fairgrounds is in the city limits.
No, sir.
No, it's not.
Oh.
I know it's owned by the county. I thought it was,
Yeah, it's cut out.
What?
I knew it was owned by the county, but I
They'll
thought
be paving from here down to the other side of the property. What this represents here is the future land use map, which called for all this property to be commercial. Obviously, it hasn't moved that direction, and we're currently working on the comp plan, as you know, and I would think this is probably going to be an area that will change. What I want to show you is this is the structure that, this is what they're talking about building. And I don't believe that was presented at P&Z. I don't know if they had that. It's a different look. They have 3 different models they'll be building in there. This is the smallest one. It's 1,700 square foot. And there's a 1,900 square foot unit. And then all the way up to 2,200 square foot. There was 6 property owner letters sent out. And if you wonder why there's only 6, it's because those are all big pieces of property around it, acres and acres. And we actually had one that was in favor, showed up in person at P&Z. I don't know if he's here tonight or not. Was in favor of this happening. We didn't have any responses in opposition, and none were returned by Postal Service. Now, planning and zoning had some problems here, and their vote was 4-4. So I'm bringing it to you without a recommendation tonight, which you can do. Their concern, I think a lot of their concern was that we're still building small houses. And we hear over and over and over, or y'all do, I don't, you hear over and over and over, we need to be building big houses in Greenville. You know, and I've heard that over, and the realtors say we need to build it. Nobody's walked in my office and told me we need to build 3,000 square foot houses. Nobody. No developer is going to come in here and spend millions of dollars building street and infrastructure without having a product there that he know he can sell. It's not going to happen. And so we keep getting into this controversy about the smaller homes. To you it may not be, but a 2,000 square foot, 2,200 square foot home is a pretty good sized house to me. And there's a market for this house, whether you see it or not. You look at that design of those, that's got millennial written all over it. They've got a market, they can sell it. I think the controversy that P&Z had was we keep building smaller homes. And yes, we are, and we keep bringing them, and there'll be some more that we bring again, because that's what's selling in Greenville, Texas right now. Our time will come when we get to build the bigger houses. But to say that, who's going to buy those bigger houses? Folks that buy these houses aren't going to buy the big houses. This is what they're looking for. This is what's selling. Most of these houses, we got this size right now. they're selling before they get the foundation poured. Our infill houses are selling as fast as they can build them, and they are in the subdivisions too. Altura out in Cottonwood, which is a little bigger home, 2,000 to 2,200. Mr. Ellis's, which are in that category too, they sell them as quickly as they can build them. And that's what will happen with this one and the one that we brought last month, so. Staff recommends approval of it. I mean, that's tax money we get to put in our pocket right there. Those people will buy those houses, so I don't understand, and I wasn't at P&Z, I don't understand why we're thinking we're just not gonna allow this and in hopes that we're gonna build big homes. I don't have developers doing that. We had one shot at one a few months back that was just outside the city limits, and at the end of the day, they decided they just weren't ready to do it yet. They'd rather go to Caddo and build the bigger houses. Our time's coming, it's just not quite here yet, from my standpoint. No realtor has given me an explanation of why we need the bigger houses. They can sell them, and no developer's asking me to build that, so as long as we're still selling homes, I don't understand that thinking, but I recommend us do that. We've worked through all this, and I'll answer any questions.
Big concern that I have with this is you build 115 homes, and the road that you identified goes out and dumps out right by the fairgrounds, and that's a lot of traffic going out there, especially at the start of business and at the end of the day. Trying to get TxDOT to put traffic lights in or things like that's almost impossible. So it's just a great concern that we're putting all of that in. And I drove from one end of Aerobic around to the other.
That was a trip, wasn't it? I made that trip.
It was a single trip.
Yes.
Yeah, it was. I did the same.
Yeah.
So I don't envision anybody from this housing district that would turn and go south.
You're right.
So I just see that as a lot of traffic going down that road. I don't recall how big of a road he plans to put in there and whether it would handle that kind of a traffic.
It will be, Chris, you remember that? It was a bigger, I think it was a 39 back of curb to back of curb. How about 49?
41.
41.
Back of curb, back to curb. So
Are we taking bids on it? 29, 39, 41?
So yeah, it's going to be a bigger street.
I rode out there and I see no problem with where they want to build at. I mean, they're far enough away from the National Guard. The land been sitting there empty since I was born, so I see no problem with it. In traffic, I think if you find anybody who can find an easier way to get out of something or get back home, they'll ride on any road to get home, as long as they can get there. So I don't see that being a big issue.
Anybody else have anything?
Yes, Mayor. I'm very concerned about this development because of ingress, egress. The road is unimproved. And really, where you talked about driving, if you drive west on that road, that's really not an option to exit that property. So I'm very concerned about the development, about grading it down to a single family 3. And I'm opposed to this ordinance.
Okay, so we don't vote on it yet, Jerry. We're just,
Okay.
we're asking questions.
I have a question, and this is more about our subdivision ordinance. I like the design of the house. It's something different, but I share the concerns with the road to get to and from. And I also, and I know this is probably just what our ordinances allow, but that is some packed in tight on top of each other houses, it looked like to me.
5-foot lot line.
Same setbacks as
Everything else.
Man, I mean, but just
10 feet between houses, 5-foot lot
I
lines.
know, and no green space at all, just, it just seems, I mean, I think we need to take a look at our subdivision rules if the one right there. Yeah, I mean, that's, That's a lot of houses on top of each other.
If that's the case, then just stop approving SF3.
No, I just think.
No, if you're gonna do it in one area, you need to do it everywhere else.
No,
No different than any other one.
No, I agree. I'm saying.
That's not a great drawing, by the way.
I'm saying that.
It's a small drawing for the size.
Right. Overall, I think that if you're going to put in 100+ units, there needs to be some kind of park or green space for
Is
children
there
to play. And
retention pond here?
There is right down at the bottom. If you look at the very bottom of it, the U-shape, that's all detention right there.
And I'm not suggesting we would do it for just this development. I think as a general rule, that's a lot of houses in one place with no place else to go.
But the bottom line is our ordinance says SF3 is 5,000 square feet for the
Correct.
place. So
Right.
even though this looks compressed, if it was spread out, they wouldn't look as compressed. But if it's meeting those requirements.
Right.
Hal?
Well, part of the concern I have, and maybe Latour can speak to this, some of the scenarios that we're showing to the public now at the recent public meeting for Greenville Forward, which is our comprehensive plan, is village clusters or build out along commercial roads. And this area on any of the scenarios that I believe we have, and she can correct me if I'm wrong, is designated to be commercial to provide a transition between the industrial of the airport and a step down until we get to residential. The other major concern I have is that location is in the airport traffic pattern for the only active runway at Majors Field. And the first time you have one of their large jets come over at 500 feet in a right-hand traffic pattern, you're going to have any citizen that lives there screaming for noise abatement, which is going to impact the airport operations. So,
Yeah, that's the same problem with Ellis Estates or Ellis Farm or Cottonwood too, though.
That was a far reach, but it was good.
We had that same conversation, I believe you were probably on P&Z then, when we talked about the apartments that Cliff Jones was going to build. And
yeah, it was Cliff Jones
and
Apartments.
we went ahead and did it.
Any other
No, we're
questions?
working on the comp plan. He brought the comp plan. We're working on that. And I told y'all a while back, hopefully we have that to you by December. In December, then we'll start working on the zoning ordinance and the subdivision ordinance to rewrite some of that stuff. But currently, this is what we have to go with. And I would ask, if we don't want SF3 development, let me know, because I have tons of meetings with developers about this kind of deal. And if we're going to not do it, then
I'm not opposed to SF3 development. I think all of our development standards we need to look at, and I'm okay with small lots. Some people want a small lot on a small house, that's fine. I think that developments of a certain size need to have some open space with them.
I don't disagree.
Even with the small lot sizes.
Can I say this?
Yeah.
Brett Quarles is working, and he'll be bringing you something here shortly about something that will address that fact about parks in new subdivisions. Obviously, it won't concern those that we've already got going, but we do have intent to bring to this, Brett's working on it, bring to this council a formula that will tell us how much of that property needs to be green space to actually build a park. So that's something we're working on, but we're not there yet. So we have to decide what we're going to do with these in the meantime.
Okay, any other questions for Steve?
Yes, I think I heard you say that this project will not cost the city any money.
Oh, ma'am. They'll pay for all.
They're paying for everything.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't pay developers, no. That's all on their dime.
Curb, guttering, sewer,
The hose,
water.
no. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for him? Okay, thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
At this time, I'll open it up for a public hearing. I'm sorry, let me stop that. Is there anybody from Innovation Homes that would like to speak?
Good evening, Gabe Whitcoff. How are y'all?
Good.
Good. In the aspect of what you're saying with single family 3, the 5,000 square foot lots. Each of our lots are roughly 5,700 square feet. Altura Homes is building on 4,500 square feet. Warrington Homes is building on 6,200 square feet. So they're all, I mean, everyone's building kind of on the same lot size. And with that right there being so small, I guarantee it looks, even when I look at it, I kind of go, it looks really compressed. With our contemporary design and what we're looking at, some of our target is the younger couples, younger people, younger engineers at L3 that don't want to do yard work. They want to be able to have smaller yards, nicer homes, energy efficiency, and, you know, knock a yard out in 20 minutes, 30 minutes and be done, and or hire someone and not spend $50, $60 each time they mow it. You can hire someone, they come in and they knock it out and, you know, $20 later. Price range wise, we are in the exact same line with Cliff Jones, Scott Ellis, Altura, Warrington, everyone building in here. With us building a 41-foot back-to-back curb with green space and sidewalk along Aerobic. That was what was suggested by Steve Methvin and Brett Jameson. And just in conversation with Hunt County-wise with the fairgrounds, us expanding that road, creating a big open drive for them, it allows them more ability to get their horse trailers, livestock trailers and stuff for the fair in without having, you know, the culvert spacing and stuff that, you know, inhibits them from doing certain things. And in a sense and aspect of selling, talking with like Denisha Denning, 3D Real Estate, Remax, talking with Jennifer Samples, other real estate agents within Greenville area, this is something that they feel would be a fresh breath of air. They say that they get a lot of clients on the younger end, going to L3 engineers, newer engineers, so forth like that. They look at the homes here, some of them are fantastic, they love them. You guys are doing fantastic work with all the homes here, but there's a majority, or not a majority, there's a group of them that are going more towards Rockwall because they're getting more of the contemporary design. That's one thing we look at. Bringing it in here allows us to kind of hopefully grow and evolve Greenville in some different aspects of, you know, the traditional home, the contemporary home. And like Holly was asking, I mean, yeah, we're pouring, you know, concrete roads in all the way around. It will have all the sewer. We've engineered and worked with Jameson on that whole deal, Brett on that, to get everything worked out on catch boxes and retention ponds. The property owners that are to the east of us, to the armory, gain, because as we put water lines in, they're now able to tap water at that point for their properties. If they want to come and get taps put on by the city, then they're allowed. Now they have access for water, because right now there's no water there, so they can't put livestock out there because there's no way of getting any kind of water. So, I mean, it's got exponential growth in what we're trying to do to assist Greenville and be a part of your guys' growth overall.
Any questions? Thank you very much.
Certainly. Thank you all for your time.
All right, this time I will open it for a public hearing. Anybody wish to speak in favor of this?
Rick Justice has filled out a card.
And when you come up, please give your name and address.
Rick Justice, P.O. Box 1928, Wiley, Texas.
Rick, I didn't catch your last name.
Justice, Justiss.
Thank you.
And P.O. Box 1928, Wiley, Texas, 75098. Thank you. I own a partnership, we operate, owns the neighboring property, and 29 acres to the west side of this. And so when I heard about it, I came last week, and I learned what they're going to do and everything. And of course, I mean, you think because we're next door, we'd be for it, of course. But if you've seen the area, it is a very poor area. The dirt road wraps around my property, and to me, this is an excellent start to do something in that area. I know the fairgrounds is to the south, fairly poorly maintained. The developments that I see in this area are all SF3. Altura Homes is building duplexes, which would be straight north of the airport runway. This would be to the west of the airport runway. And to me, this would be an excellent opportunity to get some sort of development in that area and start to get growth in that area. There's a lot of single family, but I see no other products that are like what they're putting out there, and I think that's a good idea. Everything else is the exact same small house. Scott Ellis is building up there, and this would be, to me, a good change for the area. So I'm definitely for it, and hope that maybe we can follow suit with what they do with our property in the future.
Okay.
Questions?
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak in favor of? Anyone wish to speak against? None heard. At this time, I will close the public hearing on this, and is there any other comments from the council? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Move for approval.
All right, Cedric moves for approval.
Second.
John? All right, looks like we've got the voter thing in place. Please vote. Clemmer, are you clicking for Jerry?
He did it down. Make sure I did it right.
Okay, it passed. What was that for? I've got 4, 2, and 1 abstain, so it passes. And Jerry and Al were against. Okay. Move on, and we'll move out of public hearings. We'll go into ordinances. During that time, we have public testimony will occur when citizens are invited to address the council on topics not already on the agenda. Speakers will be invited to speak at the time the council is discussing the item. Please give a citizen's comment card to the city secretary, and speakers will be limited to 2 minutes on each agenda item. And again, when you come up to the microphone, please give your name and address. Item 7A, consideration and action on an ordinance authorizing a unit price construction contract with Texas BIT for awarding of the 2020 Street Improvement Program. Press.
Good evening. I have before tonight the...
You got to get closer to the mic.
Excuse me. Okay, is that better?
Yes.
I have before you tonight the resolution with ordinance for the 2020 SIP program. We went through the bidding process. It was duly advertised. We received the bids on it. Same situation we've had before. The lowest bid has not done any work for the city of Greenville, and we were recommending approval to the second low bid. There was only about $16,000 difference of the two bids. Texas BID has done our street program for the last 5 years, have done an excellent job meeting the workmanship and the time frame that we put on this. This only has a 60-day time frame. So based upon the information that we have and their past performance with the city, staff is recommending that the council go with the second low bid, Texas BID, for this particular project.
Anybody have any questions?
The streets on this list, who came up with these streets?
Sir?
Who came up with this list?
This was a list that was compiled by staff based upon different factors that we were looking at from different reports, engineering work, and our own observations of what streets need to be repaired.
So these streets here in Greenville, I wrote down these streets to go take a look at them to see how bad the streets were. And I feel like y'all use some extreme prejudice on the streets that need to be fixed. These streets are not even close to the roads that need to be done in Greenville. So the minor reconstruction, especially on some of the roads I went down, and it looked like it was the new homes that was built from the water and tap that was done. That's one street, so that's under the minor reconstruction, right?
Yes, sir. And what we did on the minor reconstruction, several of the roads, we had done utility replacements on. And we're trying to follow behind our utility work. When the water and sewer gets replaced, then we go back in and do the minor reconstruction on those roads. The other parts of these roads was from the old engineering firm KSA did a report of rideability of the roads. And these were on their report for roads that need to be fixed for rideability. So we took the information from that report based upon what we've done with utility work to come up with this particular list.
So are we moving tonight? Are we approving the list of names? I mean, we're approving these streets exactly how it is on this list, right?
We're approving that the contract for $1,541,146.63 would be approved.
For these streets?
To do this.
For work on this, yes.
Yes, sir.
I'll make a motion once we listen to the audience.
I would also say, I mean, just.
Wait a minute, I didn't hear the motion.
I said I'll make a motion once we finish, let's listen to everybody, then I'll speak later.
I wish Ms. Young hadn't left because Wesley Street from Blades to Silver is on here, and I've driven that, and I agree with what, I drive that pretty regular. I agree that needs a lot of work, and I'm glad to see that that's on there.
It shows as mill and overlay on that.
A mill and overlay, which
Yeah.
means, I mean, that's a pretty substantial reconstruction on a road that really needs it.
And just to let you know, TxDOT is coming in this coming year to do a lot of work on Wesley Street that's under their jurisdiction. So we were trying to coincide with what we're doing, so all of Wesley Street will be fixed at one time.
Is there any way we can get TxDOT on that very thing when they're working on Wesley, put more drains in there so that we don't have 3 or 4 blocks before there's a gutter for the water to drain off? We end up with tremendous puddles out there.
We are in conversation with DOT about that now.
Well, you need to be forceful on it because
Yes, sir. I agree with you wholeheartedly.
I'm tired of driving through there and either get sprayed or spray, and it's not safe.
I know.
You're driving along at that and you hit one of those big puddles that causes the car to swerve.
Do we have any other homes that was built before the homes on like Moore Street, Henry Street, that should be on this list before this?
I don't have that information.
Obviously.
So is this an assessment of all the streets in Greenville, and you all came up with this right here? That's how you came up with it?
Well, like I said, it was based upon a report we had. We went out and looked at all these streets, and tried to come up with a plan. And I'll say that there's a whole lot more streets that need to be done, but, we try to get everything to do within the budget we have, that we get the most for our buck out of it.
Street striping, how much will that cost the city?
Sir?
Street striping. When do we add that on to the, have that always been on our list? Street striping?
For the street scrubber?
Yeah, no.
Striping.
Striping. No, that's a fairly
Is that something new?
Fairly recent thing. We had, when we were doing the roads before, we were doing the roads and they didn't stripe them. And so it's been raised up that, let's keep it safe and let's put striping in there.
So why wouldn't that cost be included in the traffic department's maintenance budget instead of adding into the street improvement program and taking away from repairing roads?
Don't ask me. Summer?
I mean, if you guys choose to switch it around, I mean, you're more than welcome to. I mean, we were just asked by council to include that in our street improvement for the future, so that's why we added it to the street improvement program. So we certainly could.
Well, I think the question is that something that the street department should be doing anyway, besides on this
Well,
program.
not when we're doing new roads. I mean, that's not a.
Well, no, the
maintenance.
striping that's listed in the street improvement program is existing roads, and one of them happens to be Stonewall between Stanford and Park, which was done several years ago under bond, and I can't understand why we didn't stripe it during that reconstruction. And if you go into the budget, the description of the traffic department, they're responsible for maintenance of road striping. So why, my question is, why are we taking SIP money and we're not covering it under the traffic department's budget for normal maintenance of roads?
Because it would, I mean, if it wasn't done in the first place, then it would be new striping, so it's not necessarily just maintaining the striping that we already have, so that's why we put it in. I can't tell you why it wasn't included then, just the reason I don't know why it wasn't included on Centerpoint, which is a new road. So we didn't include it as a maintenance, because it's not just repainting it, it's actually new striping. So I can't tell to why they didn't do it at the beginning, but we're just trying to rectify
so it wasn't,
that.
yeah, it wasn't part of the bid.
Yeah, it wasn't part of the bid on the original, and I don't know why, but we're just trying to fix it at
And
this
there
point.
was an attitude prior to Summer coming on board that we didn't need to stripe roads.
So do
That's
you-
why I could never get the striping repaired in front of the GISD.
We got. That's you.
Oh, that was you.
So do we have other streets that you think should be priority over the list that we have now?
We have a lot of other streets
That should be priority over this list?
on next year's.
No,
list.
should they be priority over this current list?
Sir?
Should they be priority over the current list? Meaning, are they bad enough to where they should be done first before some of these streets? I wrote down some of these streets, and really, some of them really are not that bad, where they don't need to be milled and overlay or.
And some of these streets we're trying to catch now before they get to the point of no return. And there's a saying that in public works we go by, good streets cost money, bad streets cost even more. So we're trying to get to the point.
We ain't fixing the bad ones.
That we don't let our infrastructure get to the very bottom before we try to go fix it and have them spend 8 to 10 times the amount of money to get to them. If we can maybe get some of these a little bit earlier, it's more cost effective to do that. But we do try to prioritize, and that's why we have this list of minor reconstruction, roads that are candidates for just milling and overlaying. And then in Turtle Creek Estates, we have a big problem with the valley gutters. So we're trying to get that fixed, which is a drainage issue. So we try to prioritize everything we're doing to get the best bang for the buck we can get and still get the work done that needs to be done. And we're trying to redo our payment management program now to reanalyze all the streets in the city based upon not only just rideability, but structural part. Is the sub-base good? Is the base good? Or the water and sewer pipes 50 years old or 60 years old? Or the curb and gutters sunk, out of whack, and the drainage isn't working. So we're trying to analyze, and also amount of traffic that's on the road. We're putting all that into a program, and that will help us prioritize what we're trying to do.
I think that's a big factor that sometimes we overlook, that if you've got a road that is really in bad shape, that was described earlier tonight, really in very poor shape going over there by the church, that how many people are driving on that versus something that, like the extension out there on Wesley, there's more people on there. So when you're trying to repair roads, you try and do the best you can. If you've got 10 cars a day on one section, and you go to the other section and you've got 1,000 cars or 2,000, that's part of their factor. And I don't know exactly what the basis is that they use for their decision.
Mayor, Mayor Dreiling?
Go ahead.
I can't hear all the dialogue between the council members, but I know that the street striping project came up. I don't know whether it should be included in the SIP or not, but it needs to be included. There are about, I guess there's 6 or 7, I see about 4 or 5 of these streets that badly need to be marked. They're very hazardous when it's raining and the street's wet. For example, Traders Road is a good example there from Wesley Street to Walmart. It becomes very hazardous when that road's wet. There's no, you can't tell where to drive. Also on Stonewall, the same thing from Park to Ramsey and Terrell Road. So whether or not these are included in the SIP or in the budget, we need to stripe these areas. I think some of them are very hazardous. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. Anybody else have? Al?
Yeah, I don't disagree with Dr. Ransom at all. I think they do need to be striped, and especially the minor arterials and the collectors. But my question on that was, why all of a sudden did we move it to the SIP? Obviously, we haven't been doing it before. And with you coming in as a new DPW, I also understand that you're bringing in a different way of doing things. So we got a lot of email traffic in our email about last year versus this year, obviously due to some citizen requests. Was this project bid twice this year?
Yes, sir. We originally put it out to bid. We were having the geotechnical report done so we could figure out what really needed to be done for these roads. Unfortunately, we did not get the geotech report in time, so we felt the most prudent thing to do was rebid the project with this information so the contractors would have all the information for them to analyze to make their bid.
So that's why a lot of them flip from
Yes, sir.
repair to mill and overlay and vice versa.
That is correct.
And I apologize, I didn't bring my iPad that has the whole packet on it, but the bid price here is 1.5 something million.
Yes, sir.
And the budgeted amount is 2 million.
We have spent some of the money on some engineering work and some other street improvements during the year, and I believe we're somewhere just north of 1.8 million left in our budget, so we're well within our budget. And like I said before, whatever we have left over, if we can find a street or something that needs it, then we would certainly try to spend that money on a useful project.
From a long-term planning perspective, I know we've consistently been spending $2 million a year on our street improvement program, but as Councilman Dean points out, we have way more, and that everybody here knows, we have way more than $2 million worth of work to do each year. With money being as cheap as it is right now, would it be worthwhile to look at debt servicing a much bigger amount of repairs and using that street improvement money kind of going forward from a budget standpoint to do it? Or is this about all we can do in a year anyway?
Well, like I said, the SIP is a 60-day project. We generally try to plan it for this time of year due to weather conditions. We can certainly spend more money and do more roads over the whole period of a year. But we are limited to our $2 million, so we try to set our budget to that. And I understand what you're saying is going out for a bond issue and then using our $2 million a year to pay the debt service on it, but then that would give us a big chunk of money to go do a lot more streets at one time and probably get a better price on it if we do more work. So that is something that's not my decision to make.
And that's something that's way too late probably to do for this year's budget, but I think, and next year a lot of us won't be here. So I think that may be something to have a committee look into over the course of this year or something like that. And maybe it's not the whole 2 million. Maybe we say $1 million, but everybody knows we're fighting a losing battle, and it'd be nice to figure out how to get out in front of some of this because we have however many hundreds of miles of street, and 2 million just doesn't go very far.
I think we have, about 185 miles of streets in the city.
And one of the problems that if you go out and get a big loan to be able to do a lot more roads, that's going to have a major impact on what you can do on your taxes.
Yeah, but we're already spending $2 million a year. So if you got
a loan, you got to pay debt service.
That's right. But it's paying for it up front now. And my thought is if interest rates are 2 point something % and construction inflation is 4 or 5%, then even if we did everything this year, we're getting more done than we would get done over the course of 10 years for the same money.
If I understand what you're saying let's float a revenue bond, fix a bunch of roads, and then use the $2 million a year basically for debt service and pay off the bonds, which I think is a good idea. And I also think, considering the council has made a mandate this year to build infrastructure that lasts, that we need to put a committee together, either a subcommittee or several work sessions to get together with Press and his team, and let's set criteria of what it's going to take so we all know what the requirements are to build roads that last. Is it total reconstruction? Is it mill and overlay? Is it just patching? I think we need to all get on the same page, and the citizens need to know what they're getting for their $2 million a year.
I think we already have a subcommittee on that for transportation, but who the members are, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if we have a transportation subcommittee, but we need to revisit it.
Well, I think, Mayor.
Yes.
I think I heard most of what Mr. Atkins said, and I think there's I agree with him, first of all. I think there's a balance between infrastructure that lasts and what we can realistically and practically do to improve as many streets as possible. Obviously, if we're doing concrete on, replacing every street we work on with concrete, we're not going to get very far. And still, I don't know that our overlay efforts have produced the best streets we have. So I'm still interested in infrastructure that lasts with a reasonable balance about what we can and can't do throughout the community.
Okay, any other questions for Press on this? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
We need to.
Oh, we need to
public
pick
testimony.
I'm sorry, I apologize. Thank you. At this time, I'll open it up to public testimony. Anybody wish to speak on this?
Larry Milton. Larry Milton.
Larry Milton, 616 Beaver, Greenville. What was presented tonight on the street improvement project was not what was presented at the last council meeting. I find that disturbing. They've been changed. We've gone from 10 mill and overlays down to 3. We've gone to minor reconstruction from 3 to 7. And I don't understand why that happened, because 2 of the streets that are mill and overlay remaining, and 1, Edgewood, went from mill and overlay to minor reconstruction. I've driven those streets and I don't see the difference in them from a surface standpoint. They look basically the same condition. Secondly, it was mentioned at the last council meeting that there was $300,000 spent on the street improvement project. I've data from the city. I can't find any data that justifies that. I did find we're doing some testing for 2020 on an as-needed basis, but it doesn't specify, so I've got to assume that there's other projects involved. Also, there was data showing street improvement projects that we have done work on Lee Street, Henry Street, and Sale Street to the tune of $68,000 in the street improvement project. I don't understand that either.
I do.
Also, there was another one that was work was done. There was 45 tons of asphalt laid on Henry Street at a location that you have dug out already. I don't understand that either. It sounds to me like that not everything is up to par here.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak?
I'm Kristen Washington, 3201 Cary Lane. In regards to your street and what was projected on the screen, it is very heartbreaking to see only some streets put on this list, and it's also heartbreaking that when you're sitting in here and you see the streets listed, none of the streets listed are those in the community that I live in and grew up in. It's also heartbreaking when you look on the list that's projected in the council meeting and you know that the streets on that list really don't even need that much construction done to them. There are over, I think, maybe 50 streets that should have been on that list that were not listed. And it's heartbreaking that we can't go anywhere in this city without either getting a flat tire, a scrape on your car, you're having to spend $300 to $400 on repairs. And being a single parent, I don't have that money to keep spending on a car. So it would be nice if the council would please take a reevaluation of our streets and our communities. Like Councilman Dean said, there are more streets that need repaired. There are more streets that need to be repaved, strip, whatever you want to call it. But those on that list, those are nice. I would love for those to be fixed, but please go through the community to see what else needs to be done. There are holes, there are potholes, there are some houses that are sinking in the streets that y'all did not even list on the list tonight.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak? All right, I will close the public testimony on this. Does the council have anything else to say?
Can we pull this item and revisit it after the budget year, or do we have to vote on this? Can we roll the funds that's left already in the budget over to next year?
It'll roll into fund.
It'll roll over to, go ahead.
It'll roll into fund balance, and then you guys will have the decision to what you'd like to do with it.
Well, we can approve the $2 million, but how that...
He's talking about the current funds in the current budget. The $2 million's already approved for 1920. He's saying not spend it, let it roll into fund balance, and then council would decide whatever they wanted to do with it for the new budget.
Is that what you were asking?
Yes. Because I'm wanting to pull the, I'm not wanting to not even, I'm trying to see how can we just pull this and revisit this after we come up with the, I guess when we come up with the budget, not approve the issue.
So that next year we'd spend $4 million on.
And then we look into some better ideas on how we can get more roads done, because this is not working. This has been going on for a long time. Streets are not getting fixed. We're having issues. We complain about the money that we're putting in for the street repairs, and then you say, well, it's not enough to get stuff done. So if it's a better way to go about it, then I think we need to look into it before we look into approving any more streets, because there are absolutely more streets that should be on this list besides the ones that are on here. And it's just a fact. Like, I mean, you don't have survey after survey of people in Greenville complaining about roads. And when you ride on those roads that the people actually list, these are roads that are terrible, like tearing up cars. So this here is, I'm telling you, if they rode around, if your staff rode around and they came back and they say, I recommend, this is our recommendation, I'm telling you, use the extreme prejudice on what streets you decided to put on this list. This is unacceptable. The council should not even approve this. And if we can pull this item off the agenda and then revisit it some other time, then that's what I'm recommending.
I'm not in
So I don't know how you can go about, I don't know how we need to go about doing it. I guess I make a motion to.
Well, before you
go
make
ahead
a
before
motion.
I make a motion.
Yeah, I'm not in favor of saying, let's not spend the money. That's what happened prior to us getting on the council, is there was essentially no money spent on the roads, and that's how a lot of this got there. And what we're trying to do is pick up and recover. And
This is not recovering though, Mayor.
well, I think a lot of roads, and the list came out as far as how many roads have been fixed in the past few years, and everybody got that. And
But what did they do on those roads? Like, if you send out a list, like what did you do on the roads? You can't send a list that's just general with with names and then what district, like what was done? Did you fix a pothole? Did you tear it up to fix plumbing? Like what was done? So it can look pretty because you have a bunch of them. So if you had enough money to do a bunch of roads last year, 15 to 20, then you come this year and you have 7, there's a problem. Just don't make sense if we're just talking about a list. It don't make sense. If you're just talking about a list came out and you had this many roads, how come we don't have this many roads again? That's because you did certain things to those roads. And if we don't know what you did to those roads, then are we really justifying the money that we're putting into the streets? If not, we need to wait and find a better way to do it.
We can provide you what we did on those roads. That's not what was requested, so. But we surely can provide that to you, what we did on every single road for every single street improvement since 2014.
No, I'm not getting at you. I'm just talking in general about everything that's going on. I'm just answering, saying I'm talking about what you're saying about we all got a list. Yeah, we got a list and it looked good. Looked like last year you did a lot of roads. And then, like I say, this year we have 7 to 8 roads.
Well, you're doing different work and that costs different kind of money.
That's
so
exactly
if you want
what
that breakdown, we can certainly give that to you if that's what you need to make a decision. We can certainly do that.
But if it's better ways to look, if it's better ways to get more roads done in this city, that's what we need to look at. Because the complaint is we don't have enough money. Our budget is just $2 million a year. So if it's $2 million a year, what Brett was talking about sounds good. Sounds like you can get more roads done, get a bang for your buck. Then let's look into it instead of approving this issue. Then you go into next year and you got your $4 million or whatever it is, and just start over and like come up with actually look at all the roads, send your guys out, and let's come up and find a way to like really put streets down that need done. Like we really do have streets that have actual holes in them. These streets are not bad like this. I rode down these roads. They're not that bad. Shouldn't it be on the list? And we're talking about roads that you're talking about just driving. More people ride on these roads than hell. We're not going to get nothing done because we ride on the same streets every day. People in the community can ride on the same streets every day. They're complaining as well. It's not about just the main traffic flow that everybody's riding on. Wesley Street, a bunch of stuff on West Street do not need to be touched.
We're not doing any work on Wesley
As an example, Mr. Mayor, you talked about traffic.
I know.
And that's why you said we're dealing with streets that have a bunch of traffic. So if that's your example, then that's the example I'm telling you about.
And Wesley, up to a certain point, belongs to the state, and the state works on that. And we have identified to work on the rest of Wesley is what's been proposed. So I think that things like that are being addressed.
Not being addressed.
But if you say we don't want to work on these because I want other roads in there, the people that live in these and drive on these roads will have a different opinion.
I'm not saying let's not move forward with this because other roads, certain roads I want on there. I'm saying we need to do a real assessment of the city and prioritize roads. These roads are not bad to where that need to be done right now.
Well, I think that the Public Works Department did do an assessment of that. And
this guy did not go do all these roads in Greenville and come up with this crap. You can get a better survey from your citizens and put those roads on there.
I think, my district has had, by whatever metric you want to put, less road repair than anybody else's in the last 6 years or 7 years, according to this. I mean, whether you go by linear feet or percentage or whatever. But I understand that it is a very difficult job what the Public Works Department has to do here. And I absolutely agree with Mr. Atkins that we should put together a committee and come up with a kind of a way that we prioritize things. And we need to prioritize not just by what's the worst, but as Mr. Tompkins said, what can we save? We need to look at traffic count. We need to look at a lot of different things. I think that's a good idea. I don't think that delaying this year's program is a good idea. I think we need to get these repairs done. And for the most part, these are on, or a lot of the work here being done is on high traffic roads. There's a long section of Wesley Street that's not on the state highway part that needs to be looked at, needs to be done. Terrell Road, high traffic area. Traders Road in front of Walmart.
Nothing's wrong with Terrell Road.
I wouldn't
And
say
then you
nothing's
have,
wrong with
I
it.
see the striping on Traders Road. I can see where you may have an issue because the road do turn. So, yeah, you can fix that striping, but no other construction. That road we already have an issue with that road.
I'm saying
financially.
that we,
Mr. Dean, please let Brent finish.
the work that they have to put together and try to put together a budget with $2 million in what is probably a $2 billion problem is difficult. I mean, and so I agree with Mr. Atkins. We need to come up with a formalized process and kind of metric that they can use to try to resolve that. But a lot of the roads that you and I drive on the north side of town can't be fixed with this program. There's just not enough money there to do that right now. And in some cases, they say, well, we can. I've rode the streets with the prior Public Works Director, and he said, we can't do this street. I agree it needs to be done, but we've got to move the utilities first, and that's going to be a huge project, and we've got to wait till we get funding for that because we don't want to pour a whole new street and then have to come back and tear it up and put in water and sewer. So I think that it's unfair to say that although I do think we can maybe look at ways to do better and always look for ways to improve, it's unfair to question their motives or to say that they're being prejudiced in the way that they're putting these together. A lot of citizens, if you did a survey, would say, well, my street is worse than a lot of these streets, and they would be right. But for a lot of reasons, it doesn't make financial sense to do that street right then, right there. And so I think we need to give the benefit of the doubt to the staff. And right now, we've bid this project. We've already been through this. We've brought it forward, and we've now bid it. And I think we need to award it, get these fixed, and see what we can do to fix or to improve the program for future years.
Just to be clear and make this public, when I say prejudice, we're not talking about a black neighborhood or white neighborhood or a certain district. We're talking about you looking at certain roads and you choose this road over that road. So it's just simple as that, so we don't want to get a misunderstanding. So what I'm saying is we have roads that are way worse condition than what we currently have, period. And it's been like that for a long time. And so we're not coming up. So if we're complaining about streets that's been a certain way for a long period of time and they're still not getting done, we're still having an issue.
But the program can't
Brent,
just be.
let him finish, please.
Okay, I thought.
No, I'm done. You can say it's not about that.
Yeah,
Go ahead. Whatever you're going to say.
I didn't think you were making it racial.
I just want to make sure everybody knows.
But there was some kind of ulterior motive for it, and I think that you can't just go through and say we're going to spend $2 million on the worst 10 streets in the city because that may not be the best use of that money. If 7 people drive on that street, but 7,000 people drive on this street, then we need to get the street fixed that has a bunch of people driving on it. And so I think there's room for improvement, but I don't think that tonight we can fix everything that's wrong with the streets in our community.
Mayor?
Go ahead, Jerry.
I'm sorry. Well, I can't hear everything that Cedric's saying. I like some of his ideas. I think I do like the suggestion that Al made about either a committee or work sessions. I think I'd prefer a committee that reported to this council via work sessions. But as I've said before, with interest rates like they are, this would be a good opportunity to look at maybe a bond where we could fast forward a street improvement program, maybe do, I don't know, I'll just say a $10 million bond that could be voted for by the people that would allow us to fix a lot of these streets. And so I think that we should go ahead tonight and adopt the streets that, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear all the dialogue, but I think we should adopt all the streets that are recommended by staff, that have been recommended by staff, and with the understanding that we form a committee to work on this going forward, because we do have a lot of streets that need to be repaired and infrastructure costs are not going down. interest rates are, I'm sorry. I can't, I guess somebody's talking, I can't.
Nope.
Do I need to stop?
Keep
Mayor?
going. Keep going,
Do I
Jerry.
need to stop?
No,
I'm
keep
sorry.
going.
Okay, well, just that I think we need to study, perhaps we do need to look at possibly a more aggressive street improvement program throughout our city. But it's not going to be funded via a $2 million street improvement, pay-as-you-go program. But certainly we could do that. We could consider that. Sometimes I couldn't hear everything Cedric was saying, but when you drive down a street and there's potholes, even if the homes along the street are beautiful, it's hard to enjoy that with when you're dodging potholes and that sort of thing. So I would propose that we adopt this ordinance and the streets that have been proposed by council, and then proceed with a committee to look into this larger issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Al.
One question for Prez. Ballpark, how long would it take to put together like a pavement management program and get it updated?
We have purchased the software already. I have 3 people in the engineering department, and it would take some time with staff level to get this program implemented. It's a nationally recognized program that the Corps of Engineers wrote called Micropaver. It's universally used throughout the country for pavement management programs. So I've used it before. It's a very good program. It takes in consideration all the attributes of the roads and your budget and comes out with a work program based upon what roads need to be done, based upon the information we put into it. So based upon tonight's meeting, I'm gonna go back with staff and see if we can start allocating more time and getting this program up and running and start getting the data put into it. But like I said, we have 3 people in engineering and we're spread pretty thin right now.
Because if I'm understanding what Cedric is proposing and Brent's saying and Dr. Ransom saying, I think I'm hearing Cedric say, let's just take this $2 million this year and roll it the next year and earmark it and make a $4 million SIP next year for fiscal year 2021. And that would only be if we could get the program together and determine which roads really have the greatest need to go along with our council goal of infrastructure that lasts. I mean, case in point, there's a road in my district that just last year was scheduled for a mill and overlay that got traded for a road that was worse. And when they looked at it this year, it turned into a complete rebuild, 1,400 linear feet at a cost of $970,000. And to me, that will never appear on an SIP because that would take half of a $2 million budget. And that's just a residential street.
And that means when they actually say in 7 or 8 years, we have to do this, it's going to be 2.1 million.
And it's going to be a bond and hope the voters will pass it.
Right.
So that's why I say we need to reinvent the SIP program and get everybody on the same page.
Okay, I think we've had plenty of discussion on this. Does anybody else have a unique thing that they wanted to say? If not, I will entertain a motion on this.
I would like to make a motion that we adopt this as stated, and the Transportation Committee get together with whomever it takes to figure out a bond for next go-around.
We can't include that in the motion because it's not on the agenda.
Okay.
Though you can ask that be added to the next agenda.
Yeah. All right, I have a motion to approve as submitted. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, Brent?
Don't do something.
Well, but we have to do it on the agenda. You're adding things in there. Can't do that here.
Not anymore. I cut it off.
Okay. All right, I have a motion to approve as submitted by John, seconded by Brent. Please vote.
Could I just confirm that's a motion to approve as recommended by staff?
Yes.
Correct, yeah.
I can't hear anything. I don't know what's wrong, but okay, I'm voting for that.
All right, it passes 5-2 with Al and Cedric no. All right, moving on to 7B, consideration and action on an ordinance authorizing the selection of an engineering consultant for the development of the impact fee. Oh, Latoria, she did show up.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, today I'm going to give you an update on the RFQ process and also the timeline. In June of this year, we issued an RFQ as we determined the feasibility of the impact fees as we experience the growth that's occurring. We received 3 responses, one from Kimley Horn, one from Wilden, and one from Friesen Nichols. And so as we look through the RFQs, and this is just strictly their resume portfolio, not any costs associated with it, no fees. We determined to go that, and I'm sorry that their thing isn't listed in the council packet. I'm not sure if that will impact your decision.
I'm sorry. I think I skipped a 6D.
Oh, did he? Should I?
We'll do this and then come back to 6D.
Okay. But we selected Kimley Horn. It was based upon their experience. One of the firms, most of their work were out of state. They didn't have anything in state. And one of the things that stood out with Kimley Horn is their team that they selected and the list of experience that they had. They had a lot of experience, each team member that they assembled. Within their project experience, since it wasn't included in the AIR, they have done nearby cities such as Fate, roadway water and wastewater, impact fees, Rowlett, Mesquite, Garland, there's Princeton and Farmersville. That's just a few of them. Those are just the ones that are kind of nearby going into the Metroplex. One of the things that we noticed was the timeline is the same, and that's because there is a guideline by law based upon the required public meetings and times for decision. And so that time frame is 8 to 9 months. I did speak with Kimley Horn, and they kind of said that depending on how we do a few of the public meetings, if we decide to go forward, you could probably shave off 30 days of that. But let me just quickly go over that timeline with you. So the kickoff is approximately 21 days, and you have a review of the plan, 30 days. This is the task that they would need to do. They need to develop a service area, which would take about 2 weeks. Create land use assumptions, that's looking at our comprehensive plan, that's 30 days. The impact fee capital improvement plan, that's looking at the capital improvement plans that Public Works already has and what's needed. Then the calculations for the maximum impact fee, which is 21 days. And then you have 92 days for that adoption process and the stakeholder engagement. And then the ordinance support and administrative phase is 14 days. Trying to make sure I'm not forgetting anything.
So the state has set that it takes 8 months for them to be able to do the job.
Based upon it, yes. Now, this is what I was thinking of. I'm sorry for the pause. If the city does anything prior to, so let's say there's expansion for any type of roadway, water utilities prior to the impact fees being authorized, there's still a way to, you still be able to recoup the most of the cost. Not all of the cost, but most of the cost. So if we plan in the future to do any type of expansion because of new development, we still be able to, because it still will be identified even though after the fact within an impact fee study. And did y'all have any questions? But
please provide a write-up on that to the council so that we understand how we could implement that.
Okay. Yes, I can do that.
Expedited.
Sure.
Any questions on the impact fee?
Will they be using our 2004 comprehensive plan, or will they be able to use this year's, the new one?
Yes, they will be able to use this one.
I didn't know if the timeline was going to allow for that.
Yeah, we talked with them, and because of where we are in the comp plan, by the time it kicks off, and just a list of ways things go, by the time they get to the land use assumptions, we should be close to adopting the plan.
Okay, good.
So it should be fine.
Okay, any other questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Public comment? Public comment?
I'm bound and determined to miss that tonight. Anybody have any?
Out by May.
Thank you, Latora. Anybody have any comments they'd like to make on this? None heard? Now I'll entertain a motion.
Move for approval.
Hold on,
No card?
hold
All right,
Paul
Paul?
Park.
Withdrawn. Any other cards? Okay. I'll entertain a motion.
Move for approval.
Second.
All right, Brent? Al? Please vote. All right, it passes 7-0. Okay, I need to move back to the public hearing area. We have item 6D, and that was sent out subsequent to the whole package. And item 6D is consideration action on a public vote either for or against the proposed tax rate of .627346.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. This is kind of a new item that's come up this year as a result of Senate Bill 2. Sorry. Thank you. And the new, basically, forms that we're required to publish in Truth and Taxation. So this form has particular language on it that calls for a public record vote of whether each council member is for or against the tax rate as proposed. This does not necessarily mean that you are voting for that as a tax rate, nor is it basically an opportunity for you to suggest a new tax rate. This form just requires us to publish whether each of you are for or against the proposed tax rate of as it was currently proposed, which is .627346.
So my understanding is this sets a top limit. It doesn't say what we're actually going to do. It can go lower, but it cannot go higher.
Correct. The tax rate as proposed is a not to exceed tax rate, which means that whatever tax rate that you guys vote on later shouldn't be above that as it's been proposed.
All right, any questions? Thank you. All right, at this time I will open the public hearing on this. Do we have any cards? Anybody wish to speak on this issue?
I think your mic's off. He's going to bring you some batteries. That red light means the batteries are dead.
All right, I will just try and talk a little louder. Is there anybody wish to speak on this? All right, none heard. At this time, I will entertain a motion.
So, move for approval.
John?
Second.
Brent? All right, please vote. And it passes 6-1. Al abstained.
I don't know why Al wants to raise the taxes so much. Be sure you get that in the paper. Al's trying to raise the taxes.
We're not setting the rate. All we're doing is just saying about where we're at. All right, now we'll move to item 7B. Consideration and action on an ordinance authorizing the selection. We just did that.
We just did that.
C, consideration action on an ordinance awarding a bid to Mission Critical Partners for consulting services for a proposal for the radio system procurement. Steve Powell.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Just to refresh everyone's memory a little bit, as most of you can probably remember, over the last several years, we've been talking about the citywide radio project. Just to kind of refresh once again, each department in the city essentially operates on their own separate independent system. And what that means really for all of us is that we can't talk with each other. In addition to that, those systems are extremely old and need to be replaced. So our goal as staff is to come together as one and come up with a system that not only is up to date, but also we can talk to each other when we really need to. And so if you remember as well, we went out for a consultant. We searched out for a consultant to help us with this journey, and what we found was Black & Veatch was our original vendor that we used, and they came up with a 3-phase approach to this. The first phase was a needs assessment. They came to the city, and originally we tried to not only use the city, but also reach out to the county, tried to make this a much bigger project. We thought that would help us when it came time for grants possibility, if we had those. Unfortunately, a lot of those agencies just didn't feel like they had the resources to fund that, and so at the end of the day, it came down to just us. That phase 1 did a needs assessment. We went to all the different departments. You see there the fire department, police department, public works and parks. We also reached out to L3, and they expressed some interest as well as going along with us. As a result of that phase 1 study, we kind of figured out what our needs were, and that includes hours and stuff like that. You guys have seen all that before. We won't go through it tonight. But what we would like to come to you tonight with is the phase 2. And phase 2 really consists of going out for an RFP. Once we get those RFPs back, the consultant will go through those with us and help us look at those, determine if that's really what we asked for, and also help us with the negotiating the contracts in that process. So that's what we're asking for tonight. Phase 3, if we got that far, which we hope we will, would be an actually implementation stage where we would go out, purchase the products, and buy the infrastructure. Questions?
Anybody have a question? I can identify that I did review his initial portion on this, where he identified the needs. I read it through in a lot of detail. I had some concerns in there. Then I got copies of RFPs that he has written before. The RFPs alleviated a lot of concerns I had on this, that he was putting the onus for a lot of this work on the contractor that would provide that. So I think that a consistency in that type of RFP will end up getting us something that we should have had a long time ago.
Yeah, I would agree, and I would like to point out, and it's in the AIR, that we did meet with the Public Safety Subcommittee, I believe 3 times is what it was, and I think that just helps to, we're not bombarding y'all all at once at a council meeting with that information, and I appreciate y'all's time there, and I think that helped a lot.
Okay.
This process.
Anybody have any questions for him? All right, thank you, Chief.
Thank you all.
All right, at this time, I'll open it up for public testimony. Does anybody wish to have any comments on this? John?
John Kelso, 6005 Horn Drive, Greenville. You may have already thought about this, but I just wanted to say I hope we would consider, make sure that you consider talking to the Sheriff Department, the Greenville School Board, School District, Police Department, and make sure, I mean, it's good that the fire can communicate with the city police, but it'd be nice if they could communicate with the ISD police, Sheriff Department. So make sure the study considers having purchased any equipment that's compatible with them if you can. Just wanted to make that comment. Hope you consider that.
I believe that those kind of discussions have been held, and the plan is to make it so that it can be more than just the city.
Jeremy, you said that you had talked with the county and they declined to kind of be a part. Did you talk to GISD?
We did. We actually reached out to, we sat down with our consultant and amongst ourselves. I guess the best way I would describe this, we looked at this from an overall emergency management approach. This wasn't the fire department or the police department needing a radio system. This was our area needed a radio system. And so it branched out to the hospital district, the school district, the sheriff's department, all those agencies that Mr. Kelso just mentioned. They were invited as a stakeholder when this first happened. And even though most declined to be a part of our system as far as contributing to it, we're still going to do everything in our power to make sure that we build in redundancies into our system. We can still talk to them.
Okay.
What we would like to have seen more of is been able to maybe the county get in a little bit more heavily involved and maybe building some repeater sites out in the county, and that would have been nice to have.
Mm-hmm.
But we're going to do everything in our power just to build redundancies into our system. We'll still have some very good interoperability. It may not be ideal, what we were shooting for, but it'll be much better than what we have today.
Would it be worthwhile to wait and see if the new sheriff maybe has a different viewpoint on it? I mean, we're getting a new sheriff in January.
I mean, it could. I certainly don't want to. Where we went with it as a group is we tried that, and we don't want to wait and delay what we're trying to do as a city on the hope of somebody else may change their mind. We talked about that very thing.
Okay. But I think the system being proposed or that was originally talked about can be expanded should they come on later.
Right.
So it's not too bad you didn't get in there, you can't get there. The system that originally was proposed, or is what I think is going to be proposed, would have the capability that if the sheriff's department or the county wanted to go to an emergency management, it could be added in and extended.
Okay.
That's absolutely correct. But it's just like anything else. If you can do all of that up front,
save money.
It's going to save some money. That's right.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. I need citizens, right?
Yep.
Anybody wish to speak on this? All right, none heard. Unless the council's got any more comments, I will entertain a motion.
Move for approval.
Cedric? Holly? Please vote. And it passes 7-0.
Mayor,
Yes.
I can't hear any of the dialogue, very little of the dialogue at all, so I'm going to excuse myself as we reach resolutions. Sorry.
Okay. Okay, moving to item 8A on resolutions, consideration action on a resolution directing the city manager to continue to take appropriate measures to contain and prevent the spread of COVID-19. Summer?
Yeah, Mayor, we visited this the last time. It's been a little bit over a month, so we revisited it as a staff to see where we were at as far as facilities and kind of operations and what we were doing. Most of it didn't change. What you'll see, the major changes that we had back in, we said city programming was only limited to virtual. We're doing some in-person with 10 or less people, which is according to the governor's guidelines, so we did change that. Another thing that we changed was, I think a couple of things in the Reese Davis were closed or we weren't utilizing, but we are utilizing those in groups of 10 or less. We've opened back up the pavilions for rental, so those are being rented out, or we would like, if you guys approve this, to rent those out again. On the golf course, we were only allowing one person per cart unless you were in the same household. We've gone to 2 people per cart now. We were using only raised cups. We would like to change that as well, and those are all in line with the governor's guidelines. So other than that, if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer. Everything else would stay the same that we already had it, as far as buildings and playgrounds and those kind of things.
Okay, does anybody have any
capacity.
questions for Summer?
Yeah, I
Al?
just have a couple of questions, and maybe I missed it before. Did I read a requirement in there that anybody over the age of 10 is required to wear a mask inside a city building?
That is correct. Unless you're social distancing.
Okay, the way I read it, it doesn't appear to say unless you're social distancing.
Would you like us to change that?
Maybe I'm wrong.
We can change that if you'd like to.
I would like to make that very clear. Yeah, that'd be good.
I mean, that's what we
Yeah.
discussed last time.
Right.
Yeah, I would like it designated that unless you're social distancing.
Okay.
Where did we come up with 10? Is that just?
That was the
age
governor's
10?
guidelines.
Okay,
Put on the mask.
thank you.
Yeah, the governor's guidelines.
How much-
Anything else, Al?
No, that's fine, thank you.
Anybody else?
I'm ready to open it up as much as anybody will open it up. I'm ready to declare COVID over.
Nice try, but you don't have that authority.
At this point, it's.
At this point, I will open it up for public comment. Anybody wish to comment on this?
I'm done.
All right, I will close that. I will entertain a motion to approve the changes that Summer has proposed.
Move.
Ollie?
Second. Second.
All right, Cedric? Please vote.
Oh, we just don't do Jerry.
And it passes 6-0. Okay, 8B, consideration and action on a resolution approving the 2021 annual work plan for the Greenville Board of Development and the 4A Economic Development Corporation. Greg, you finally get up. I don't know what took you so long.
I know it. Good evening. Thank you for allowing us to come speak to you tonight. Real quick here, I'll be brief on this, but on behalf of the City of Greenville, Texas, and the Greenville Board of Development and 4A Corporation, this nomination package is submitted for consideration for the 2020 Community Economic Development Award for the Business Expansion Project for West Rock. The project consisted of approximately $10 million capital investment to expand their production capacity with a high-volume printer and peripheral equipment.
Am I missing something here? Are you talking about your work plan?
What's that?
He's talking about an award that we've been nominated for.
Yeah, you'll just let me go through this, Mayor?
Okay.
I apologize.
This was probably part of this work
This is the lead up. Just give me just a second here.
He's building
Allow me
momentum.
to.
Okay.
Okay.
You're
thank
fine.
you.
Go ahead.
You can shut me down.
No, you're fine. Go ahead.
Okay. So the equipment expansion will create up to 15 new jobs and will allow West Rock to further expand processes within the facility. West Rock is the second largest American packaging company. It's one of the world's largest paper and packaging companies with the U.S. $18 billion in annual revenue and 50,000 employees in 30 countries. So, if you remember, y'all remember West Rock come before you this past year? You probably don't remember because COVID's probably wiped out all our memories, right? But anyway, you approved a city tax abatement as well as a county. We received a county tax abatement for a big project expansion, okay? And what I want to say about this is this company has been, a form of this company has been in Greenville since the 1970s. They were in downtown West Rock. And then they located out on the interstate. So there's very few times we get to say thank you, for what y'all do for us as far as business development, the things you do, all the little details you have to pay attention to, and you do a great job with leadership. But thank you. These are the type of projects that are existing companies. They could go, and the way we submitted this award to the state, actually. That's what I was reading as our nomination packet. And we said in the packet, because the state considers what types of things that criteria that each project require to receive an award, and one of those is innovativeness, okay? So we said that we approached the West Rock project like it was a new company, like it wasn't even here. You know why? Because they have like 30 plants across the world they could have put that project. So we approached it like it was a new project. We didn't take it for granted that they were already here. And we won the project. So thank y'all to that. One of the things we do. I want to say, as far as the plan of work is concerned, the Board of Development did approve a new plan of work. We had about 3 or 4 meetings. Staff has gone over, I think it was 6 iterations. We submitted it to the board. The board did approve it this last meeting. I want to say thank you to, I get to do this once a year, so I want to say thank you to the people you appointed. So Chairman Terry Thomas, our Vice Chairman Mark Scott, our Secretary Treasurer Sean Franklin, David Ellis, Tim Dooley, Dr. Chet Haney, and Jerry Morris. So thank you to you and to them for the job they did for us this past year. I also want to recognize our staff, John Dixon, Director of Business Development, and Barbara Carter, back in the back, our Special Finance Person, contracts keeps us in line. So thank you to them. Something about the plan of work that always is top of mind with the board is definitely our primary economic development goals. And I'm not going to read all this word for word. You've had it in your packet. You've reviewed it, but I want to hit some high spots. Number 1, attract new business and industry to fill vacant buildings or build new facilities within Greenville's business and industrial districts. That's number 1. Number 2, retain and expand the existing business and industrial base in Greenville. That's number 2. Number 3, enhance and improve the quality of place in Greenville through successful economic development efforts. Number 4, maintain fiscal responsibility and accountability for economic development to the citizens of Greenville. So the board feels like those 4 issues are the primary issues that we should adhere to, and we do follow. If you notice in the plan of work, we did touch upon business retention and expansion, the very first thing. Very first thing. Why? Because if they ever leave us, it's going to be real hard getting them back, and we've worked real hard to keep them here. So we need to do as best job we can to keep them happy. Those industries are here. The employees are here. It's pumping out a lot of property tax. A lot of economics are driven from the employees that live there. They shop in our community. They live in our community. They buy electricity from us. They buy water and sewer from us. So the industry that we pay attention to, the existing industry here, is number 1 in our playbook. Kind of the number 2 broad category, industrial district development. Paying attention to the new properties that we could develop into. So a lot of the land we have, we don't own. Some of it's owned by other parties. We represent those pieces of land to industry to provide new projects that could come to town. So we continue to market all the land we have for industrial projects through using the logistics of our railroads and our infrastructure, our roads that you're talking about. Gets our employees to work every day. So the roads are very important, as you know, as well as the water and the sewer and the pipes that connect to those facilities have to be maintained high quality. The biggest issue any company can have is the infrastructure going down at any point in time, because the equipment they have running is I just told you, $10 million printer equipment. That's one piece of equipment. Multi-million-dollar piece of equipment. If they've got utilities going out at any moment in time, it could mess up that equipment. So very important. We also wanted to continue to help with the industrial district. As you know, we'll talk about it here in just a little bit, but public infrastructure and development. So those roads, those water, those sewers that are in the industrial areas don't affect citizens as residents, but they do affect citizens with their jobs and with the tax base that goes back into your general fund that you're able to spend on fixing roads. So the cycle of life of having industrial in our city comes back to the general fund that we can help resident streets. That's the one goal that we want to keep in mind. Also, the sales tax that's derived off of that gets put back in the general fund. We get to spread it out. So, in partnering with the city, the Board of Development partners with the city. Summer and her team, we've been working with them. As you all know, the Board of Development is providing funding for Industrial Drive rehab project, for Rutherford Drive rehab project. There'll be upwards over $1 million that the Board of Development, the 4A Corporation, will be supplying those funds to repair roads and in our industrial areas. So that's not coming off the backs of the citizens. It is coming from the 4A and the GBOD. Next broad category is key project development. So one of the things that the staff are always working on is projects and networking with the proper authorities that bring projects to the town. The governor's office is huge in this. We've gotten since the beginning of this year, we've gotten probably over 20 submissions from the governor's office for giant projects. We actually submitted, we didn't know we submitted, but we submitted on the Tesla project that landed in Austin, if you remember that. We get the project names, they describe to us the project, and we submit our best foot forward. Where they go, we don't know. And sometimes we don't know that we've even submitted on a project like that. We just happen to know about that because of a certain situation. The governor's office notified us on the Tesla project. So, one of the things that are some other things that we concentrate on is developing partnerships, not only with the governor's office, but all the other partners that help us, the university, PJC, the workforce, our workforce development agency, and all the other area Chamber of Commerce, employers, and things like that. One big thing we brought out in the plan this year is the Walton Group land. Something that's really never talked about, but you need to know we have 6,000 acres of development that is out west of town. It's only a portion of it's in the city limits. Only a portion of it is served by Juice. But we have a contract. The city of Greenville has a contract to provide services to this major development, 6,000 acres, large development. Hunt County and the property owner want us to represent that property for other big projects when they come to the city. So just keep in mind, we put it in here because it needs to be top of mind. We do have a contract with them, to provide services. So should a project land out there, then it will kick into motion, how are you going to get water and sewer to those areas? Keep that in mind. Marketing. Continue our marketing effort. Hopefully next year corporate will travel again. We hadn't had any corporate travel this year. We've had one site visit by one private individual. That's it this whole year. The corporate travel has been shut down. Now we've submitted RFPs, we've had conference calls, we've had, we've made it to certain rounds on site selection, but no one's coming here and bringing a bunch of staff and consultants to look at sites yet. Now hopefully, yes sir.
Do we have the resources we need technologically and all of that to put our best face forward when they can't come here in person?
Yes, and good indication of that, Brent, is we have recently a company that just got on our website and looked for sites and then contacted us through our website and said, hey, we're thinking about building a new plant in North Texas. And they told us they found everything they needed on that website.
That's excellent.
So that was confirmation to us to say, hey, we have got the right stuff out there.
I'm talking also like on the Zoom calls. Do you have the right drone footage of the land that's available and beautiful voiceover videos?
Yeah,
and
we do have some videos out there that do represent some of that, yes.
And you've shown us some of them, the ones with that Derek Price did and stuff like that.
Google Earth does a great job at that too. We always use that too when we're on a call. hey, well, on a computer, I'll get on Google Earth, they'll get on Google Earth, we can go through and look at the site from that angle, and then you can go all the way around it, so.
Right.
But yeah,
Just
you're
want to
right.
make sure we have all the resources you need to
Sure, thank you.
sell people on Greenville.
Thank you. So continuing forward, you know, definitely one of the last pieces of, you know, all the things we do, definitely the Board of Development does a festival, a Bob Wills Fiddle Festival. It's a national festival which originated in Greenville. It has the original national music of Texas. It's done in partnership with the Bob Wills family, which is he's in the Country Music Hall of Fame. He's in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I mean, it's like a worldwide awareness of him and Western Swing because of the Facebook page followers that we have. It's just a sidelight thing we do for downtown, and it's made for downtown tourism. You know, the heartbeat of our community, we think, is downtown, and definitely to keep revitalizing downtown, whatever we can do to you know, exemplify that as a place for this community to call home. This year we had to cancel it because of the virus. We were not going to get we did a survey of about 100 people, and it was 50-50 on attendance. So with that kind of results on a survey, you know, we just felt like that it wasn't going to do us justice to spend, you know, the public money on an event that was going to be, you know, half attended, if that. So we decided, hey, we weren't going to do it this year. We had a whole committee involved, including the Bob Wills family, Summer and her staff, you know, Kevin and Doyle, and our board members, and we decided we would postpone that till next year. So that was postponed. Last thing is professional development and fiscal accountability. That's probably one of the most important pages, fiscal accountability. The board takes pride in paying for the city audit to audit us every year, and you know, we've gotten nothing but great remarks every year, and so I'm very proud of that. We as a board are very proud of that, and we'll continue to do that. So, Mayor, what I have before you is the plan of work. I'll
Thank
take
you.
any questions.
Anybody have any questions for Greg? Thank you, Greg. Does anybody in the audience want to comment on this? None heard? I'll entertain a motion to approve the annual work plan by
So
the
moved.
Board of Development.
So
Move for
moved.
approval.
Al?
Second.
Please vote.
You heard what?
And it passes 6-0.
I need to watch the Mavericks.
Okay, moving
I do.
on to item 8C, consideration action on a resolution approving the fiscal year 2020-2021 budget for Greenville Board of Development and the Greenville 4A Economic Development Corporation.
Thank you, Mayor. The budget, when we started going through the budget as the city staff did early part of this year, we were certainly thinking we were going to have 30-40% losses in our sales tax fund, for sure. I mean, that was like a given. I mean, I was talking to my colleagues across the state. Everybody was thinking the same thing, maybe upwards of 50%. You know, thank goodness we had a Home Depot, a Lowe's, and a Walmart. Because believe me, that's what saved us. It did. I've already talked to other communities in the state of Texas who didn't have a Lowe's, didn't have a Home Depot, didn't have a Walmart. And their citizens then traveled to a city who did have those stores. And that city who did not have those stores lost 70, 80% sales tax. So we're blessed to have those stores. I think
We're also blessed to have stable employment through L3 and
We are.
a lot of the industries that you guys have recruited over
Amen.
the years, West Rock and others that weren't as affected by this.
Amen. Absolutely. And also, you know, something that kind of ring true to home, it kind of proved up that we were seeing a lot of sales tax leakage over time to our neighboring cities. We have over 30 years probably gone to other cities, our citizens, to spend money. So now, during this period, people didn't travel as much. They kept it at home, okay? They had to spend it here. So that right there will tell you, hey, we've got something with continuing retail development here. If we can keep them here, keep them shopping here, keep the cash registers flowing here, they'll shop here rather than going somewhere else, okay? That's something to keep in mind. That proved up the leakage for sure, sales tax leakage that was going to these other cities. So what happened is we were all pleasantly surprised, right? Only what was it, 7% drop or something like that in sales tax over that time period. So what we had, I think we've had, Barbara, we've had 5 or 6 reiterations of this budget going insane because we cut like incredible amount out, you know, 3 months ago. Well, as sales tax got better, we started adding things back in. Now, what I do want to say though is we didn't go the full board. That the, you know, we submitted. Of course, we're ahead of y'all. We submitted to the our board a flat sales tax increase in revenue. So we didn't raise it. Okay, we just said flat. Now we were way below that prior in the early part of this analysis. I mean, back in March and April when we were staff was first looking at it, we cut it way down. So we went back to flat on sales tax revenue. Juice revenue, as y'all know, juice funds and cable internet and juice electric funds, our board development fund, it was down a little bit this year. It's going to be projected down a little bit, I think, coming in the future. So we've lowered those estimates there. Some other things we did not increase. Just like the city, there's no staff increases. We also reduced our overall expenses in different categories from probably 15, 20, 30, 40%, depending on the category where we felt like we could cut. So we did do that. Also, under operating and business development, we have some fixed expenses, like we have debt on Ford Mullen Drive that we have to continue to pay off. That we can't adjust that. And then we have $500,000 we're going to transfer to the city before the end of this fiscal year for Ed Rutherford reconstruction. An industrial drive we're going to have to fund $808,000 for that project. And then downtown tourism, we did lower that down about 8-9%, something like that for next year. And then marketing, we reduced that just a little bit. We went back to closer to what we spent last year. So we were able to have more confidence in sales tax that we could put that back in. So Mayor, I have that as submitted for you. We never spend all this money that we put in there. We also stress tested 8 years out with our current contracts on incentives and our estimated revenue and expenses, and we're always above board. So, you know, of $800-900 million, sometimes we get up to $2 million depending on the year. But we're in good shape cash flow wise. But I'll take any questions.
You did an adjustment to the facade grant, didn't you?
We did. I forgot about that. Yes, sir. Thank you. Yes, we did. The board of development felt like, you know, let's put our money where our mouth is. I mean, we want downtown to be, you know, come back, and we've got some properties being rehabbed now, and some companies starting to, you know, look at doing some things. So instead of $25,000, which has been the traditional fund that we provide the Main Street for facade grant program, we've doubled that now. We've upped it to another $25,000. So now next year in this budget, you'll have $50,000 for downtown tourism. We also, the board felt like, you know, something that goes with vintage buildings is neon signs. If you go to downtown Memphis, downtown Nashville, a lot of the old downtowns, you'll see a lot of neon signs. downtown Dallas, even some of the old buildings. So, you know, a lot of the cool places, restaurants and things like that have neon signs. So, you know, if that's part of the plan of the business owner, you know, we think signage should be part of it, and but mainly for the exterior of the building. So that's all we have.
Any questions? All right, anybody from the audience wish to say anything? All right, I will close the public comments there. I will entertain a motion to approve the budget as submitted. Brent?
Second.
Cedric? Please vote. And it passes 6-0. And I think John needs more batteries in his. You're red. We need some battery replacements. All right, moving on to.
I'm still working. I know.
Item 8D, consideration and action on a resolution. Please stop.
I didn't do anything.
Consideration and action on a resolution approve a grant payment transfer from the City of Greenville CARES Act Fund to the Greenville Independent School District to purchase remote learning technology. Daniel?
The school district's asked for some help from our CARES Act fund. We have hundreds of thousands of dollars that we don't have any plans for at this point. They're asking for about $54,000, which will cover about, I believe, a quarter of the $200,000 total cost. Dr. Liggins is here to come and tell you about this and answer any questions that you've got. Dr. Liggins, if you want to come on up, my understanding is that this is going to be used to purchase Chromebook computers and hotspots to hand out to kids, like checking them out, like library books, whenever they or their families have to shelter in place because of COVID. Is that correct?
Absolutely, yes. We anticipate, we're not exactly sure how many families we have without internet because our surveys require you to have internet to tell us. So but we assume about 700 of our families do not have internet. We have informed them because we have two options, whether you can come to school in person or you can stay home and for grade levels pre-K through 8. So for those families, we've told them if they choose the stay-at-home option, they must have reliable internet. That's not necessarily given by the school district. Unfortunately, as you guys are all aware, there will be instances where we will have to send kids home to quarantine, but not by their own choice. And in those instances, those children will need internet in order to do their schoolwork. Also at our high school, because it's our largest school, we have on average about 1,700 people in the building on any given day. In order to lower that number, we're having a hybrid schedule for them to where half of the kids are learning online on an A-day, B-day. So about half of those students, 750 students per day, will be on campus. The other half will be at home learning synchronously through the same classroom instruction, same teacher. Just half of them will be on a computer watching the teacher every other day. And so those students, some of those students will also require internet. We do have enough devices to provide that to our families and all of our students. Unfortunately, having enough enough hotspots are the issue. And the reason we're looking at hotspots instead of home internet is obviously very much like Mr. Ray said, is that we will very much have to check them out and check them back in as families are quarantining, excuse me, and families are coming in and out of quarantine in order to make sure that we can make this all work the way that we envision it working. And Shannon Fulp is our Chief Technology Officer. He'll be able to answer any questions about the real detail about how any of this will work.
Anybody have any questions? You got anything you want to add to it?
No, sir. He pretty much summed it up as far as a good general overview.
Daniel, can we talk about the in-home internet as part of this?
Yeah.
Okay. At the last JUICE meeting, and Dr. Liggins, please jump in here if I misstate. JUICE has been asked to see if they can set up and do some in-home installations for the internet. For the traffic I got from Alicia Hooks, the general manager, is there's 300 homes out there that they could put drops in that would provide families that do not have internet, would give them internet, and her estimate, based upon what it would take to send a technician out and put the stuff in, is about $75 per home. So if you take $75 times 300 homes, that's $22,500 that would fall into the same category. And Daniel, would we have to go to Tatum and get permission since it's all part of the same deal? If we were to
Well, we don't have to get permission to do it. We can get pre-permission, which will help us ensure that we get reimbursed that money in the audit. There's definitely going to be an audit here. There always, every dollar that we spend through CARES Act is going to have an audit, or is going to be audited. TDM allows, or they have several people who you can send emails to and ask, or call directly and ask about certain expenditures. But giving it to other local governments for things related to COVID is one of the things that is an approved expense. It's just not one of the top 3 where we have to spend 75% of the money. So since we're talking about this 54 plus the 25 or whatever, that's about $75,000 that's going to go in the bottom 3, which means we have to spend 3 times that amount in the top 3 in order to make sure the state reimburses all of it.
Now, do we have to get Tatum tentative approval on the $54,000?
No.
So to buy the hotspots, we don't have to get their permission, but to give them a capability for people that can't use a hotspot, we got to get their permission.
No, we don't have to get their permission either way. We can if we want to be as safe as possible. I mean, there's so many squirrely things about the way that this is being administered by the state that the safe thing to do is to get pre-permission. But these are so clearly within, the COVID response that it would be, I mean, if the state denied us reimbursement for either of those, I would recommend that we sue them, because it's very clearly supposed to be reimbursed. But we can get pre-permission for either one of those if you'd like.
And Summer, I asked you where we stood on the CARES fund. You want to amplify on that?
Yeah, last report that I got from Jeremy, and we had spent about $90,000 as a city on various things.
And we have $360,000.
$317,000 is what we got. That's correct for our 25%.
So if we were to add in $75,000 thereabouts here, we would still be about half of where
that's correct.
The funds we've got.
Yeah, but that's only one part of the analysis. The other one is the 75-25 split, which may go away before the December 29th spend by date. But in addition to that, a couple of $100,000, we have access to more than $1 million more that we can tap into later.
Can I make sure I understand that we have $317,000 currently? We've spent 90, and is that 90 on the top 3 things?
I believe so,
Okay.
yeah. All the fire department spending is in the top 3.
And then if we spend $54,000 on this, or whatever it may be, or $75,000 on this, okay. Then we didn't spend any more money at all, we wouldn't get reimbursed because we didn't spend enough of it on the top 3 things.
Yeah, that's right. Not for all of it, at least. We'd only get I know that's crazy sounding.
No, that's
It's
exactly
ridiculous.
the way government works.
Yes. So, but yes, that's right. Basically, the rule is 75% has to be spent on the top 3, or you don't get reimbursed for that amount.
Even if you're spending it on a valuable, obviously good COVID-related response expenditure like this.
That's correct.
And then if we're responsible enough to not spend all of the money, then we won't get it all reimbursed.
That's
If we-
right.
If we don't spend
Great.
all the money, the state keeps it
Right.
and gets to spend it the way they want.
Okay. Okay.
So what we have here is a request for $54,262.50. I would like to see about adding in the $22,500 to reimburse Juice for the installation of in-homes.
Do we need both of those things, though? They need a hotspot and a...
Well, the hotspot goes for people that have to go to, and correct me on this, that if a class ends up having a positive and they've got to go to quarantine.
Okay.
The hotspots that the 54,000 does goes to people so that they've got a hotspot capability.
Coming and going,
Yeah.
back and forth.
Back and forth.
But the in-home is for people who have chosen to do
In-home is for
all
the
year?
homes that do not have internet. So the kids that for whatever reason, they've got to go home.
High school who aren't given the option of staying.
Okay.
There
Yeah.
off and on.
I think that's good. I just, we don't need to give, we don't need to double up. In other words, if the hotspot is for the kids who are temporarily at home because of an outbreak or whatever, and the in-home is for either kids on hybrid or kids who have chosen to do all from homeschooling, virtual
Well,
schooling.
it would be for kids that don't have an internet at their house.
And don't have internet at their house, right. And we would provide that to them for free. It's not free to us.
It's not,
or it's
well,
not free to the federal
it comes out of the
taxpayer.
CARES fund, which is, doesn't affect the taxpayers.
But they're not going to have to use it at their house.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And then we would just, and Juice is providing that to them for free?
Juice would, that covers the installation. What Juice talked about is the monthly charge to run that. They're going to bill him for it.
Oh, okay, all right.
We're looking somewhere else for that money.
Yeah, okay, I got you.
So the cost to the taxpayer would be zero.
Right, okay.
It would come out of the
Well, yeah, the
CARES fund.
Greenville City taxpayer.
Yeah, the
Right.
Greenville City.
Assuming it's reimbursable.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, it's great
Mayor,
idea.
are you saying that you wanted to add in
Pardon me?
were you saying you wanted to add in the Juice thing to this item?
Can we?
No.
Okay.
No. But we can talk about, I don't even know if we need council action on that. We can talk about that if we do need council action. Because,
Why can we not?
Huh?
Why can we not?
Because this specifically talks about a transfer to the ISD. He's talking about a transfer for different things, different money to a different entity.
Couldn't we transfer that money to the ISD also, and then they could pay Juice for the installation?
Yeah, but it's easier if we're paying a city department.
Okay.
Juice is still part of the city department, I think is what he's talking about. We're giving the money to ISD is not to a city department.
Right.
So that may be where we don't.
Well, I think what Brent's asking is different. He's saying, can we just pay the school for all of that and then have the school pay it to Juice? But I don't think we can do that because it's talking about for the purchase of remote learning technology. What we're talking about here that Juice is doing is installation work.
Okay, that's fine.
So we've got to be super careful on all of this because they're going to audit every single penny.
Well, it's all a good idea. We'll make sure we get, Summer can authorize that, right?
No.
No.
Okay.
The people that they would stop billing ISD, and the people that wanted to keep it would pick up the cost of running it. People that didn't, they would have their internet shut off. So right now, what we've got before us is a bill to, or a motion needed to approve $54,262.50 out of the CARES fund to go to GISD.
Well, we got to ask if anybody in the citizens, I know.
Does anybody in the audience wish to speak on this?
We're going to grumble if you do.
All right. None heard. All right, Holly made the motion. Who seconded?
Second.
Cedric? All right, please vote. Passes 6-0.
Thank you for waiting.
I hope
Better have a
having you
meeting.
stay late tonight was worth it.
I got to see all that Board of Development stuff, so.
Oh, yeah.
How could it not be?
The street improvement program?
Is anybody greatly opposed if Summer were to go ahead and notify Juice?
No.
Okay,
Notified use of
For
that
what?
transfer?
of the 22.5.
Yeah. I think that is within her authority to do, because Juice is a part of the city,
Yeah.
and so she
And
can
it's
just
under
transfer that.
And it's
50,000.
under 50,000.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. All right, we're getting there.
Move for approval of the consent calendar.
All right. Brent,
Third.
Got to open it up for public.
Holly, please vote on the consent
Is there
calendar.
any public testimony?
Anybody have anything to say?
There's Brent and Holly. Anybody in the audience wish to speak on the? None heard. Thank you. I have a motion by Brent, seconded by Holly. Please vote. And passes 6-0. Okay, we have the July compensation financials. Talia.
I know I've caught you guys at the best part of the schedule to share this kind of a report.
We
so-
can't hear you.
Okay, that's probably for, okay. We will go ahead with July. As of July 31st, we are 83% through the fiscal year. Looking at the general fund, revenues came in at 22 million, or 87% of expected collections. Expenditures are at 21.3, or 82% of budgeted expectations. And then below is your breakdown, property tax being the largest portion of revenues, and then public safety being the largest portion of expenditures. And I'm going backwards. Okay. Sales tax. This is the year-to-date number through July. As of the end of July, sales tax collections are up $326,000, or 4.99% compared to the same point in 2019. So again, these are July numbers. If you were looking at that point in the year, we would have about $882,000 remaining to meet our target, which of course at this point, we very clearly will meet that target this year. I changed the labeling a little bit on some of these slides because I know in the June report it was a little bit unclear because there are several different sales tax numbers. So I just wanted to point out the differences in what these numbers are and why they're different on each one of these slides. So this is current period collections within the month of July. So if you're looking back 3 months prior, that's going to be taxes that were collected in May, reported in June, and then actually received by the city in July. So just the money that we actually did in that month was $686,745, and that's only what the city received. So this is not including economic development portion of the sales tax. So there's that number. And then this is just a little bit further of a breakdown for you guys in case you're curious how we arrive at this net payment number. Gross collections is the top. That includes several things: prior, current, and future period collections. When a business submits sales tax, it might be for the previous month, it might be for the current month, it might be for a future month. So we get all of that at one time, and you kind of have to pick apart what's actually for the current period. If you're interested in knowing, hey, what did we do in sales for a particular month, you only want to look at current period collections. So that's what we use to actually, from year to year, are sales different in this month. Reduced from that number is going to be your audit collections. That's sales tax repayment agreements that we have with the state. Recently, our numbers have been really inconsistent because the state decided to do us a quote-unquote favor and stop holding out that repayment. And then they're going to take it all out at once. So we're going to have, when you saw in June, yes, we're up for the year, but June is, in the tank. That's because they took out 3 months of that repayment at one time. And so you see kind of some swinging and fluctuating in that number. But that's why it's important to just really look at the current period collections if you want a picture of what you're actually getting in that month. So hopefully that helps to clear that up just a little bit. This is looking at July. So this number is actually showing you the net payment received by the city. So that is after you get, all your fees taken out, your audit payments taken out, what the city is actually getting. And again, in July, they didn't hold the sales tax repayment amount. So here in a couple months, when they take it all out at one time, you're going to see that number dip again. And that's going to be why. Water and sewer fund revenues through July as a percent of budget. That top line is going to be your water sales. And the next one down is going to be your wastewater. Water is at $5.5 million or 79%. Wastewater, $4.9 million, also 79%. And so total through July, we're at about $11.3 million or 79% of budgeted expectations. Hotel motel, this is a little bit of an interesting picture. It looks like, we saw that huge dip right at the start of, the COVID crisis there in May. Obviously, we've recovered some from that point, but still not anywhere near what we have been in prior years. So looking at the month of July, we're down 60% or about $28,000 from where we would have been in the previous year. Any questions?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. All right, next is item 11A, which is the Cotton Patch Bike Ride. This is one of those things where, thanks to the governor, it's up to me to say yes or no that they can do it. The write-up was included in the packet. They talk about handling people, the riders, keeping people separated. In that packet, they were talking 10 people in a row and separated by 12 feet. I told them they needed to rethink that because 12 feet just doesn't seem like they're going to stop people from going together, and 10 was a problem. I sent you a follow-up of their new plan, and that's 7 across, maintaining a 6-foot space, 14 feet between rows, so that would be 65 riders per block. And I'd just kind of like any comment that anybody's got before I make a final decision on this, which I told them would come about the 1st of September, barring a change in what the governor has decided to do.
My comment is that outdoor transmission almost never happens. These are very healthy people that even if they were to somehow get sick from an outdoor transmission, they would survive and be just fine. And we need to quit acting like this is going to kill us all, because it's not. It is a disease that at first was very, very bad because we didn't know how to treat it. And at this point, we're going to be okay. And we need to quit being so afraid and get on with our lives. And I think that they've done a very good job of separating people out and providing space. The riders that come, everybody knows what they're in for. Nobody's going to show up if they don't think it's safe. It's a great opportunity to showcase our community to people. And I think we'll get a lot more riders who come to our community because they're excited that there's an event. So I'm like I said, I'm declaring it's over. We don't have a crisis anymore, and I'm not governor, so it doesn't matter. But I think that we should embrace this opportunity to invite people to our community.
Well, they expected about 400 riders, maybe more, and so far they've only got 230 registered. And so there's a lot of people that would like to do that. The proceeds they get out of this help a lot of our community's needs here. So anybody else have a problem with it? Okay, thank you very much. Next item, 12, is the Greenville Board of Development minutes. Anybody have any comments on that? Anybody in the audience wish to talk about that? Moving on, there is nothing else before the council. So at 8:38, meeting is adjourned. Those of you that stuck around, thanks a lot. Those of you on the internet, I hope you're still awake. Good night.